Okay, now we're digging deeper into this college database and beginning to understand some of the other of the 8 tables that make up the database. Now when you get into a more complex situation like this, it gets to be a question of how do you really get your arms around what's going on here. Well, there's a couple of things to do. I often come in and look at the columns in the tables to see what they are, ID and name. You can see that at least in this design, every single table has a primary key named ID. But then they also have other fields, like for faculty, there's last name and first name, major, and so on. So looking through the columns can help you get your arms around a database. And also doing a script like this one that lists out all of the fields from all the tables can give you a feel for what's inside the tables, the data that the system contains. But still, it gets to be a lot, and it gets to be hard sometimes to get the concepts. And in order to make it easier to grasp the design of a database, database designers a long time ago came up with a kind of a diagram called an entity relationship diagram. In this course and in the text are called EER diagrams. And here's one that I've drawn for the student, or for the college database. Now, how to read these diagrams. First of all, this thing up here is just a label, and when you create your diagrams in this class, I'm going to ask you to put a label on the diagrams with the name of the diagram and then of your name. Now, this is called a schema. That's another word for design. So this is the design of the college database. It's also the schema of the college database. Each one of these boxes represents one of the tables in the database. So we can see that there's 8 of them here, or whatever it is, 9 for the database. So here's the student. Inside each box lists the fields or columns that are a part of that table. And it also gives you what kind of data they are. These are varchar 45s, the sex is varchar 10, and so on. So you can, at a glance, see every column in every table. That makes it much easier to kind of get an overview. And one of the things that's true is when you're writing SQL statements like you will in this assignment, it's a really good idea to have this diagram available on your screen so you can see what columns are in what tables. So the boxes are the tables in the database, and the fields inside of them are just listed one after the other. So on one page we can see the entire database here. So what's with these lines between them? Well, every table in this diagram has at least one connection to another table. And let's take a look at student and major. A student can have one major, and that's represented in the database by, in the student table, let's go find the student table, there it is. There is one field here in each row where we put that student's major, or it could be null if they haven't declared a major. So that business of connecting the major ID in the student table to the ID of a record in the major table is called a relationship. This line represents that relationship. Now notice the symbols at each end of the line. This symbol up here, which has the 3 lines on it, is called a crow's foot. It means many. And this symbol down here, which has just a single slash across it, means one. And the way you read it is, a student has one major. A major can be had by many students, which is true. Every student has only one major. You major in information technology or biology or nursing. But many students can major in nursing, or many students can major in biology, and so on. So this represents, this connection between the student and the major represents a fact from the real world. A student can have one major. A major can have many students. Same thing with the other relationships. Look at this. Here's a faculty member. This is very much like student and major. A faculty works in one department. A department can have many faculty members. So how does that show up in the database? Well, over here on the faculty table, we have a department ID that indicates what department a faculty member works in. Notice every single faculty member has a department. It's not like the student and major where there can be nulls. That's because it doesn't make sense for there to be a faculty member who doesn't work in some department. So this is not allowed to be null in the database design, whereas in student, the major could be null. And that difference is represented in the diagram with this little circle down here on major. that really actually reads a student has 0 or 1 major, whereas over here a faculty has exactly 1 department or works in exactly 1 department, whereas a department can have many faculty majors. So that talks about the basic relationship between student and major and faculty and department. There's plenty of others just like that. A section is an offering of a course. So a course has many sections. That, a computer science class might have a section at 8 in the morning and one at 10 and one in the afternoon. So a section is an offering of a course at a place and a time. A course can have many sections, but a section is of only 1 course. A department offers courses. So the computer science department might offer courses in databases like this one, or a course in programming or something like that. The department offers many courses. A course is in 1 department. Now, there's a little more complicated connection between section and student. Students register for many sections. You can take several different classes in 1 semester, for example, and so that you will register for many sections. And a section can have many students in it. So there's a relationship between student and section here, that it says a student may have many sections or register for many sections, whereas a section has many students in it. And to make that many-to-many relationship between student and registration, we have to create a table, or student and section rather, we have to create a table in the middle called registration. This connects a student to the sections that the student's registered for. A student can have many registrations because you can register for many classes in a semester. A section can have many students because typically a classroom has many seats. So here in this connection table, this is sometimes called an intersection or a junction table, this registration table. It has an ID, and then it has a student ID, foreign key to indicate which student this registration is for. It has a section foreign key to indicate which section this registration is for. And then finally at the end of the semester, the student will get a grade that says in this section that student got that grade. So that's a basic understanding of how to read a diagram like this and how the tables in the database implement it. Let me just give you one more piece insight into it. If we look at what's inside the registration table, notice it has no fields with names in them, like text fields like name or first name or something like that. Instead, it simply says that student 85 registered for section 1 and got a grade of 3.8, almost an A. Student 34 registered in section 6 and got a grade of 3.9, also almost an A. So registration really just has linking information. It links a student to a section, and the only real piece of information it has that describes what's going on is a grade. So there's that. Send questions if you have them.